Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So as I'm sure most people know by now, Donald Trump last night at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania survived an apparent assassination attempt on his life. A bullet struck his ear and he is okay. He is doing just fine, it seems. He was taken to the hospital. I assume that they stitched him up, and he's back on the golf course right now as we speak. He's heading directly to Milwaukee. He's saying, we're not going to let these people win. We're going to continue. The show goes on. And he was golfing this morning. He was golfing 14 hours roughly after he survived an assassination attempt, and just the pictures that came out of it were incredible. You know, he's raising his fist in the air as Secret Service surrounds him, and we're going to get to them in a minute, but just the pure aura and optics of this was just surreal, and just how close it was and how scary it was insane, because yes, it seems as if he's going to be okay, but if that bullet struck about an inch away from where it actually did, you would have a very different situation going on, a very different timeline. Now, I will say that this was not without fatality. You did have an innocent rally goer who was killed protecting his family in an act of heroism, and Corey Comparatori, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He ended up passing away last night protecting his family, a firefighter, upstanding citizen. Very, very disappointing tragedy all around. But Donald Trump has indeed survived, and this is something we have not seen since the 1980s, since Ronald Reagan survived an assassination attempt. He eventually went on to win in a landslide a couple years later, but that's an entirely different story. But, you know, this is something that not a lot of people really saw coming at the time. Although there are question marks about why did Secret Service and why did the authorities allow somebody to even get within a vantage point of the president. Usually these rallies are well guarded. Even if they're outside, they make sure that the perimeter and the areas around the perimeter are definitely going to be safe, just so this sort of thing doesn't end up happening. And we did not exactly see that being the case. And you saw a gunman get on top of a roof, and he was able to hit the president, and that was obviously with intent to kill. There's no other way to chalk it up. I mean, the guy hit him in the ear and also struck members of the audience. You have several people that were, medically injured, but they're in critical condition now. But you look at this. You apparently had an officer who encountered the gunman. You had people warning about the gunman. The gunman was on the roof. The Secret Service saw him. It just took a long time before they were able to properly respond. And you could say, well, they want to be sure. They don't want to shoot somebody without full certainty. But just the fact that it was not guarded was a botched operation on their part. And the fact that you have people that encountered the gunman that were not able to stop him despite him being obviously suspicious, and people on the ground warning about it. This is a major, major problem, and they got to significantly up the security. I mean, you see what happens here. It's like, this is not good. And you have like 5'3" women that are now in the Secret Service, partially due to Biden's, 30% quota, the DEI initiatives. It's a big, big mess. You need the strongest people and people that are bigger and stronger than Donald Trump defending him. And that's really what it comes down to. But still, it doesn't quite, account for the fact that you had somebody at a vantage point that was able to get within range of a president and come very, very close. If Donald Trump did not turn his head at the most opportune time for him to do so, it would be a massive, massive tragedy, an utter disaster, we know. But he was saved. Some may even say it was an act of God, divine intervention. This guy, he's one of the luckiest people in a way, just how he's able to, go through everything and still survive and come out on top and be unfazed by it. I mean, it's incredible. Politics aside, there's very few people on the earth that are like this. Presidents in history, you had Teddy Roosevelt. He was shot. He finished his speech. I'm sure Trump probably could have done so if he wanted to, but for the safety of the rally goers, it was probably the right thing to do to call off the rally for obvious reasons. He was medically struck, and that we know. But the media, when you don't think that you hate them enough, they manage to sink to a new low. And they're doing this. If this was Biden or a Democrat president on the receiving end of something like this, I don't think that you would have the first articles talking about how safe after popping sounds and falling off stage, or he's rushed off stage after chaos. They would call it an apparent assassination attempt because that's what it was. Plain and simple. There's no other way to chalk it up. Yeah, if CNN was around in 1963, JFK falls really, really hard at rally in Dallas. Yeah, that's not exactly what happened. But either way, it's not surprising. These people don't care about Donald Trump. They'll put out their statements. It is what it is. Biden will put out his statements. But it's clear their rhetoric has been out of control lately, lying, fear-mongering about the Supreme Court cases. Talking about Trump will end democracy. He's a dictator. He's evil. He's Hitler, they say. And then they wonder, why this could possibly be happening. And they are forced to acknowledge it's wrong. And even they wanted to remove his Secret Service detail. And you had all these congressmen that were, voting for it or spearheading this effort to do so. All these Democrat Congress people that you see here. It's like I said, it's a absolute disgrace, and we don't know the full motivation, but it's clear that the temperature has been turned up more recently by these people because they're losing. They can't beat them at the ballot box, so they're fear-mongering, and that could lead to crazy people, buying into it and then doing very irrational things because these people, in many cases, that would be doing this sort of thing do have some sort of mental illness, and that's true. But you have the left. They're going out there and they're saying that this is actually a staged. That's what they initially said. They said it was staged. You had somebody die. The medical examiner said it was a gunshot wound on Trump. So that's not true at all. It's not staged. And we remember what they did to Alex Jones for questioning the events of Newtown in 2012, 12 years ago. 12 years later, he has to pay $1.1 billion. He has to go bankrupt. They force him to go bankrupt. He's liquidating his assets, you name it. But all these other people, no, they'll be perfectly fine and sheltered by the regime because it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing that he did, they're doing. And you have all these tweets with hundreds of thousands of likes. You have people that are, in some cases, cheering it on. They're very sick individuals. They are. Make no mistake about it. You have Donald Trump, on the other hand. He's standing strong. He's taking a more unitarian tone. He actually did talk to Biden on the phone. Who knows how that phone call went? Very interesting for sure. But either way, you have a lot of people rallying behind Donald Trump just because of this. And he's just growing stronger and stronger. And just the optics of him just getting shot 5 seconds later, putting his fists up in the air, and just not being fazed by it at all. It's just incredible. He is a warrior for sure. A wounded warrior here, but definitely a warrior. And there's no other way to describe it. But either way, you talk about the motivation behind it, because this is the big question that people are asking. You now have the guy, you have people that were sort of, I guess you would say, his classmates growing up. He's 20 years old. Apparently, it seems as if he used his parents' rifle. So the whole gun control argument doesn't really seem to add up here on that fact alone. But he is technically a registered Republican. Now you have liberals that are saying, well, he's a registered Republican. This proves that it's not our fault. And it's like, that doesn't really mean anything. First of all, registered Republican just means that you're registered as a Republican. He donated to Act Blue, which is basically the liberal Win Red, and he donated that to them on Biden's inauguration day. So there's a lot of question marks. He was wearing a T-shirt from a somewhat right-wing gun YouTuber, But there are a lot of people that are militant on the left that do like guns, or he could have just been trying to blend in. Who knows exactly why he was wearing it? But there's so many questions we don't have answered. Social media tends to be scrubbed. But he apparently was in like an ad for BlackRock a year or two ago. There's just so much stuff to unpack here that we just don't know the facts or the motivation behind it just yet. It's going to be interesting to see if they even release it at all. We see how some of these things go with what happened in Tennessee last year, especially when things don't fit the narrative. The facts don't exactly come out quickly enough, although this is something that's just so high profile to the point where it's almost certainly going to have to be released, or some form of a narrative will have to be released as it stands right now. But do keep in mind, just because you're a registered Republican doesn't mean you vote Republican. It doesn't really make sense why somebody who's like a Trump fan would try to aim at Donald Trump. There's just no other real reason for it. Who knows how the media is going to try to spin it, but it is true Democrats in 2022, which is when he last voted, did make an effort to get their people, their voter base, to register as Republicans so they could interfere in Republican primaries. They did this more recently in 2024 with Nikki Haley, where they were trying to get people to vote for Haley to make Trump appear weaker, but they wanted for Mastriano to win and Barnett to win in 2022, just so they felt as if those candidates were easier to beat in Pennsylvania. And given the fact that Mastriano ended up losing by, close to 15 points, does seem as if that may have paid off, even though a lot of the other candidates probably wouldn't have won either. But that could explain possibly why he was a registered Republican. But either way, we don't know the motivation. Likely it was politically motivated as it stands right now. He did donate to Act Blue. He apparently, on Twitter, there was a screenshot of his house on Google Street View, and there was a Protect Trans Kids sign in one of the windows. I don't know how this all really plays out or what plays into what, but this is going to be investigated. Hopefully we can get to the bottom of it regardless, but either way, you have a tragedy on our hands, and you have a president of the United States who will likely be president of the United States again, who was an inch away from death yesterday. And one of his supporters was fatally shot in the crowd. It's absolutely a disgusting tragedy. This guy is dead. The shooter's dead, which they took care of him, but they waited until he opened fire to do so when it seemed as if they could spot him. It's just a bizarre situation. They didn't act as fast as they probably should have, regardless if people, want to speculate about the intent of that. But either way, Donald Trump, he is stronger than ever. He is okay. That's a very good thing. The RNC is happening tomorrow. We likely get Donald Trump's VP pick tomorrow. It's interesting to see how this kind of possibly shakes up his mindset regarding who he's going to be selecting. But either way, his victory odds just went up 10 points yesterday. And now he's the clear favorite in Pennsylvania, the 2-1 betting favorite. He's at 60% in Michigan, 65% in Wisconsin. He's hitting the new highs. So he's a warrior. What doesn't kill you can make you stronger. And politically, that may be what happens for Donald Trump. But you have this situation that needs more investigation. This cannot be allowed to happen ever again. And hopefully they take additional security measures going forward so they can make sure that this thing never happens ever again. Plain and simple. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.